This is UMass basketball.
I know this. I'm the most animated coach that you've probably ever seen.
Diggins, he'll let it fly. Soft as summer rain. Rasul Diggins grows the UMass lead.
Hey, he's just being Frank.
It is time for another episode of Just Being Frank from Amherst, Massachusetts. My name is Jay Burnham, voice of the Minutemen, alongside head coach Frank Martin on our season detox and deep dive into the last year for Massachusetts basketball. Coach, we've had a couple of days now to reflect. How are you doing? Good to see you.
Good, Jay. Just been on the road recruiting. It's the new world that we're in right now. We always recruited during the season. That's never changed. But you were recruiting sophomores and juniors in high school. You know, now you're like recruiting guys that are in grad transfer, so they're already in the portal. You got to go recruit high school seniors because no one's signing high school seniors anymore.
Right.
So now you're in the spring lining everything up. So in the spring you can go recruit a high school senior, and then junior college. And then we had a brand new pool of people added to the recruiting pocket this year, which was guys that exhausted eligibility but had played junior college basketball, and all of a sudden they got that mysterious 1 year back. So now you got to go do all the research to find out who all those guys out there were, and find out who was transferring, and and you're doing that. I mean, literally, we got beat whatever day, Wednesday. And I was on the road Thursday and pretty much been on the road here for the last 2 weeks.
All right. So before we get into kind of the world where we're at and the plan you've got going forward, let's go back to that A-10 tournament, that Wednesday loss against LaSalle. You've had some time to think about the year. And I think towards the end of the year, I felt a little frustration from you about the lack of connectivity for your team as things started to spiral out of control. It's autopsy time. What went wrong for you guys this year, and what are some of the things that you can kind of pinpoint to how we got there?
I didn't do my job very well. I mean, it's plain and simple. When a team doesn't win, the person in charge didn't push the buttons the right way. It's just simple as that. We're in a completely different I don't compare me and try to I'm never big on trying to utilize other situations to create the answer as to why what I did didn't work. However, I do believe that if you look around, and I'm not asking for people to feel bad for me in any shape, way, or form. I don't misunderstand where I'm going with this. I'm talking about, like, as a coach, I don't look at doctors to give me peace as to how I coach. I look at coaches and try to figure out, like, well, I'm not the only one in this crazy boat right now. So let me not act like I'm on the only sinking ship here. Dennis Gates at Missouri, who I've talked about before. Dennis, yeah. I've known Dennis forever, from his high school days as a player, and he's been a leader since at a young age. They were 0-18 last year in SEC play. The year before, they were in the NCAA tournament. This year, they flipped it again and went back to the NCAA tournament. And I share that with you because Dennis is really good, and Dennis has a great way about him in connecting with young people and leading. He's done that since he was 15 years old. This moment that we're in college athletics right now is very difficult, from the sense of, if you can't keep your main players, then you're starting from scratch all over again. And when you're starting from scratch, especially if you're depending on transfers, if they don't connect, can't win. Everyone thinks winning, like, everyone thinks this is because of gambling. Let's just be honest. And the ESPN owning gambling things, and every radio talk show host is a degenerate gambler, and you keep going. Everything's based around gambling. So because of gambling, we created fantasy sports. It's another avenue to gamble. So now fantasy sports, you kind of build your own team.
Right.
And hey, I know what I'm doing. I can win. Why can't that coach win? Well, accumulating statistics and accumulating talent is a small part of finding success. We're not computers. We're not numbers. We're not a grease board where you write stuff on and you make it look good. We're human beings. And if we don't connect, if we don't get on the same page, it doesn't work. Why do you think so many people divorce in this world? Because that's two human beings. They might be great looking, incredibly successful, and you put them in the same room for an extended period of time and their personalities just, they don't connect. And we just couldn't connect this year. And when you say that you sense the frustration towards the end of the year, because I'm always about moving forward. I get it. Every once in a while, you take a step back, and you have to regroup, to take now 2 big steps forward. I get all that. But I'm always about, let's make decisions that help us move forward. And when we got back, that St. Louis game, the way we were playing really, really well at that time of the year. And the way we just kind of bled that game out, I was worried going to LaSalle that we were going to
Super Bowl Sunday.
Yeah, I was worried that we were going to have a major letdown because I knew we had a fragile team. But instead of having a letdown, we really came together and I mean we ran them off their court in their own gym. Like that rarely happens in league play. But then from that point forward, we started with the illness. We had a couple injuries, and then we started with the same nonsense that we had back in, which I'm not going to get into details about because it's not fair to the players. But you're asking me a question. I'm trying to give you I don't know what to call it, the cliff notes, cliff notes of what for people our age, Jay. I'm gonna lump you into my age group here.
Appreciate it.
Now they use Chat GPT. We used to use cliff
notes.
Yes.
Synopsis.
Yeah. So I can't stand reverting to bad habits. That's me. I like creating good habits. And when you learn how good habits help you, stay in the good habits. That's the way I try to lead, and that's the way I try to live my life. And we completely reverted the last 3 weeks of the season, and it was really frustrating.
Let me ask you this, because it did feel like that St. Louis game was the tipping point where things were trending upwards. You had a chance to be a top 4 team. You had a lead, and then last 32 seconds, it all falls apart. You're talking about statistics, and one of the statistics that I think had been true throughout the year is just not a good shooting team. And at some point, the ball has to go in the basket. So how do you, I guess, analyze those numbers? I mean, you do look at some numbers and say, how do we kind of repair that mark?
Yeah, analytics are the most over-analyzed and overrated things in respect to winning. Like, I don't criticize people that use them, but I can't stand people that tell me that that's how you win. Then how did people win before analytics became popular? Who made analytics popular? People work in offices with computers that never play sports, have no idea what it is to lead people. So to the question you just asked me, how's Michigan State win the Big Ten? They're the worst three-point shooting team in the Big Ten, one of the worst in the country. How's St. John's win the Big East? They were literally the worst three-point shooting team in the country. It's nice when your jump shot goes in, but it's still about winning games, and you have to figure out a way to play to your team's strength. We started to figure that out. This is where I'm going with the good and the bad habits. We started to figure that out when we dealt adversity in November, early December. For us to be good, we had to really defend and we had to really rebound. If you look at our defensive numbers from December 1 to the LaSalle game, they're pretty good. If you look at our rebounding numbers, we're the number 1 rebounding team in the A-10. We're pretty good.
Yep.
Then you look at our numbers. I don't remember who we played after that LaSalle game.
It was VCU, I think, right?
Nah, I don't. I got no. It's everything's a fog right now with this past season. So we beat LaSalle. No, we had 2 games at home.
GW. I was
No,
like
LaSalle. We came home and we had
Davidson.
Davidson.
Davidson and the Bonnies. Yeah.
Correct. If you look at our rebounding and our defensive numbers for the next 3 or 4 games, because we went like we had a big losing streak there till we beat Rhodey at home. If you look at our defensive numbers from that game forward and our rebounding numbers from that game forward, they were embarrassing. We gave up literally 50% from the field, and we got out rebounded in every game until the Rhodey game. Everybody falls in like Mark Schlereth. You remember him?
Sure.
Okay. He had a great line about analytics. Your analytics sound really good until you got to block Aaron Donald. Good luck with that, you know? And you have to figure out how to win. Not everybody, analytics are numbers in a computer that spit stuff out as if we're all the same. You have to figure out how your team has to play to win. Now, when you make threes, that's awesome. But if you don't make threes, what should we do? Tell the NCAA, hey, we're taking a bye this year. We're not a good shooting team. We're not going to play. I was more concerned with our passing. I didn't think we were very good pass. We didn't turn it over, but we didn't pass. You know, I didn't think we're a very good passing team, which kind of goes hand in hand with not being a good shooting team. We got to pass it better. We got to understand how to move the ball better. The ball was too stagnant this year, and guys are open, and instead of passing it to the open guy so he can make decisions, guys would hold the ball. You know, and for what reasons, I don't know. That's part of coaching guys for the first time. You know, I'm the ultimate. Here's the world that we're being asked to manage as coaches now. Okay, now people like it, don't like it. That's their business. This is what we manage. This is where I didn't do a good job. Players have been conditioned to get stats because that's what gets you paid when you go in the portal. Your stats, not winning. And so as coaches, we have to manage that behind the scenes. We have to deprogram that mindset and make them understand that if you're interested in your individual numbers, go become a boxer, MMA, tennis,
golf.
Go do one of those. But when you sign up to play a team sport, the only way to benefit for 95% of the people is by your team winning. And but we've programmed young people to think that it's all about their highlights, their stats, their 30-second, you know, I don't know what you call it, Twitter, X, whatever, Instagram, Socialgram, whatever, all these grams that exist out there. That's what they all work for. I'm a parent of children that age. Yeah. I'm not saying it as a grubsty old coach that don't fit in today's society. I'm managing that with my children. They're more interested in that than they are with the reality of the totality of what it takes to win in a team sport, and that's what breeds success for everybody.
Was there something that you said, hey, man, I wish we just had a little more of this on this team?
I wish I would have been Frank Martin of old, not the new Frank Martin that he's trying to be careful with how he manages today's teams because here's the reality of what happens in today's environment. And this is not Frank. This. I can't wait to get to the Final Four. It's going to be usually it's where you see your friends that are in the business, and then you have all your coaches meetings, and it's our conference, and you have coaches sit in rooms and argue and some of them get ready to fight, and because we're trying to make the game better. Yeah. We're trying to protect the integrity, and we're trying to make college basketball better. So we have all kinds of, and then everyone goes to the lobby, drinks beer, and we have a good time, and we move forward. I can't wait. I have to be there because all these committees I'm on, it's going to be miserable. I don't care who the coach is. You pick up the phone and call them during the year. It's like, what are we doing? That's the
Yeah.
first words that come out of every single coach's mouth.
I feel like I heard multiple coaches say, look, my players are being actively recruited right now as we're playing in the NCAA tournament. And of course, coaches are already on the move and had been being recruited while they were in the NCAA tournament. I mean, we could.
So Jay, to the question you asked me, and I started to tell you, the old Frank, this is what I mean by it. I had so many first year guys, and I didn't have all the returning guys we had. None of them were leaders. Forget their talent and points per game. They're good dudes, and they did what I asked them to do. But none of them had the personality to grab a guy and say, "No, no, man, we don't do that here." That was Matt Cross the year before.
Yeah.
That was Keon Thompson the year before. We didn't have anybody to do that. Marquis, Rasul, those guys stay in the gym. They're great dudes. They worked at it really hard. But that's not their personality. So at the beginning, I should have interjected myself to be that personality, which is what I've always done in my career when it was needed to create that mindset. And I didn't. And why didn't I? Because this is what, as coaches, we're trying to figure out how to manage. As soon as you press on them a little too hard, they shut it down. This is like they just basically say, Siri doesn't like my answer to you. She just started talking on my watch to me. They shut it down because they know, like, I'm transferring at the end of the year, because they know, because people are already calling them during the season, saying to them, hey, you got to make sure you take 12 shots every game,
Right.
because I got a school that's get ready to pay you this much money. That's the stuff we're being asked to manage. Again, I'm not asking anybody to say, man, poor coaches. No, man, that's not what I'm saying. I don't want anyone to feel bad for Frank. Frank screwed this up this year. You have, Jay, I know there's a lot of people that follow UMass basketball and UMass on social media that don't really care for me. Let's just say I probably won't buy them a cheeseburger when I see them either. But I'm giving people that care about UMass my word. I'm going to do this the right way as we move forward away from this year.
Okay, couple of things.
And by the way, it's 42 years, 35 as a head coach, 34 for 35. Jay, would you take that number?
Not bad.
This is my first bad year. And you can look at my record and say, well, that year you guys didn't win. That's okay. We weren't ready, but we were building. This is the first year where I did I almost said a word I shouldn't say on here.
No.
But a real
Your podcast. You can say
crappy. No, but we still got that UMass on our chest.
It's a new world. So this is where we're gonna go from here. But I just wanted to say a couple of things. I did text you yesterday and said, thank you so much for getting us to the Virgin Islands and the Paradise Jam in November this upcoming year. I'm super excited about that. We can dive into the schedule at a future date, but thank you on behalf of me and Adam and our traveling party. Go down.
I went to Ryan Bamford, and I was like, because that those kind of trips, they cost a little money.
Yeah.
And I went to Ryan, and he's been incredible since I've been here as far as providing what we need to build a program. And I said, either you let me take this team to the Paradise Jam, or Jay Burnham and I are both walking out the door. That's kind of,
you gave him the ultimatum.
That's kind of.
Thanks for looping me in there.
I had no leverage, none, after winning 12 games. So I had to drag you in. I had to drag you into it, and he said, "No, Frank, you can leave. Jay's got to stick around."
Hey, Unkinsville, Connecticut isn't good enough. All right, in the wintertime. Okay, but talking about Ryan and the resources that UMass has, and I think this is something that's important. And this is the Wild West. No one knows like what players are getting paid and how they're getting compensated. We do know that UMass will be providing the resources needed. I think VCU probably had upwards of $2 to $2.5 million to spend on their roster. You saw the outcome of what they had this year. What is that level of resource and commitment from the university and those conversations that you had, and how is it looking and shaping up for the upcoming year?
Yeah, I mean, I don't like. There's a first year coach in the A10 this year. I don't get all these numbers are kind of gossip.
That's the problem too, right?
It's all kind of gossip. So
yeah,
you hear things. but I know this for a fact because I got a friend in the league, and he was guaranteed for the next 4 years at a minimum $2 million per year. This was with this past season being year number one.
Okay.
Minimum $2 million per year in NIL money. That allows you to keep your good players. I don't like comparing because then we're always acting like we're here, they're there. There's a reason why we can't win now.
Right.
I like comparing against the guy we look in the mirror. And the guy we look in the mirror is the guy wearing a UMass shirt. And where we were at 2 years ago, from that standpoint, which was at zero, to how hard Pat McWilliams and a group of people have worked to give us resources in this new day and age that we're in, to give us a chance. That's one of the reasons we won 20 the year before. Now, we couldn't reciprocate that to a better year this year because we didn't have quite enough resources to be able to keep Matt Cross and Josh Cohen and Keon Thompson and Rob Davis and, all those guys.
Yep.
All those guys left here and they made money where they went to, okay? I'm not here to blame. That's the reality. Now, Ryan, from the school standpoint, with this new collective bargaining, whatever, it's not in collective bargaining. I don't know what it's called. House settlement.
The house settlement that hasn't happened fully yet, I don't think.
Yeah, here's what I know about these house settlements, Jay. My driveway always cracks every year because it continues.
Are you
20 years later, it's still settling.
Are you done with those renovations?
Yeah, 20 years later, the foundation is still settling, so it continues to crack my driveway. So I don't know about this house settlement stuff. It sounds good. I don't know where it's going, but because of that, Ryan has done, and Chancellor Reyes, they've done an incredible job of coming up with the resources to give us a fighting chance internally. Pat McWilliams continues to work his tail off to care. You see, a lot of people care, which is awesome, and then they criticize, which is fine. Pat cares, and then he puts his money where his mouth is at and supports. Pat lives 2.5 hours away. You can probably count in less than 3 fingers how many home games he didn't sit himself in his seat. Right. And, he drove 2.5 hours in to see us play. Pat's fully invested, as always, the group of people that support the Mass Collective. Yeah. We just got to keep building it. That's the bottom line, because the whole objective is when you have a Matt Cross or a Josh Cohen or a Rob Davis or a Keon Thompson on your team, you got to figure out a way to keep them. You might not keep all of them, but you got to keep a group of them.
Yeah.
And if not, you're basically starting from scratch every year. And if the parts don't connect on that given year, it creates the problem we had this year.
So this is where, and I think there's just a general level of frustration for fans across the board, because for decades nothing changed, and I think leadership at the top of the NCAA has not done anything to put much of a structure in place, to use your word, to deal with the moment that we're at right now. And so now it just feels like chaos every single season, and there's no real guideline or ability to to build the way that you used to. So I think the question for you, Coach, is you got to figure out how to do things differently than you've done in your success that you've had in the past. So how do you approach this moment now? Junior college players, Division II players, portal players. I mean, how do you go about, I guess, essentially being the GM and figuring out how to put together the roster?
Yeah, I have to worry about what we have. I can't worry about what I want to have. I got to worry about what we have, the resources that we have, and then I got to figure out how to utilize those resources to give UMass the best chance it can to win the conference that we're in, which is the MAC now as we move forward. I can't worry about what Akron has. I can't worry about what Toledo has. That's like when I was in South Carolina or K-State, worrying about who Kansas and Kentucky are recruiting. Like, they're going to have good players. Why am I worried about it? I got to worry about what players fit us that are good enough to help us go beat those schools. That was the journey then. That continues to be the journey now. The general manager part, that's the new wrinkle in this world. That's why you see so many schools hiring a general manager for basketball. Why? Think about it this way, Jay. So in February, what do you think my number one objective is in the month of February?
To focus on coaching the team.
So we can be playing our best basketball at the end of the year. That's the objective. Because when you go into your conference tournament, whether you're in the A-10 or the MAC, you got to win it so you can make the NCAA tournament. Okay? What do you think players are doing in the month of February in today's day and age?
Now, I mean,
yes, today, right now. This moment we're in right now.
I would think some of them are probably thinking about what's
thinking.
next,
You
right?
want me to show you the text messages on my phone from agents and AAU coaches and street dudes telling me to go watch players that are playing on TV that night because they're leaving at the end of the season, see if I want them. That's what. So if they're doing that, I'm getting all that information about other people's players. What do you think's happening about my players?
Applies
so now
the
I'm
same
in
way.
practice asking guys to rotate defensively. Well, rotating defensively doesn't get you a video clip. Right. Rotating defensively or denying the wing so they can't throw a post entry, that doesn't help you with your NIL money. But that's who we weren't a great low post defensive team. So we had to be very good on the perimeter to keep the ball away from the areas where you throw it into the low post. Well, guess what? That doesn't get you paid in NIL. Like that doesn't get you your highlight. Oh, watch them deny the wing. Holy cow, right. That's worth $100,000. That doesn't get you paid. So now I'm asking guys to do that to win games, but everyone's telling them like, yo, Frank ain't letting you shoot the ball. Yo, you got to take more shots because the only way you're going to make $500,000 next year is if you average 18 points a game. Because I talked to this guy who's 26 years old. He's an agent now. He really knows what he's doing. Really, at 26. Did you know what you were doing at 26? I had no idea. I thought I did. I had no idea what I was doing at 26. But that guy that's 26 years old is now telling that family, if Johnny doesn't score 18 points a game, I can't get him $400,000. If he scores 18 points a game, I got a school who's going to get him $400,000. And I'm worried about defensive rotations. I'm worried about offensive spacing so we can win. Well, imagine now I'm coaching my team and it's the middle of February and you're not happy with how much money you're making. Now I've got to sit there and have a conversation with you. I'm not happy with you because you're not doing what I asked you to do on the court. But I got to have a conversation with you about compensating you in a better way the following year. That's the world, right? That's where we're at. That's why you're seeing these people hire general managers so they can have those conversations. So they can come in and meet with me on January 27th and say, Frank, what are we thinking? And I can say, well, Johnny is a selfish dude and he's driving me nuts. And whether he wants to stay or not stay, I really don't care. Then I can say, well, Johnny ain't playing very well, but you know what? He's my guy. And Johnny's trying his tail off to help us get past this moment. Well, we got to go make sure that second guy I described, we keep. But I'm not in the mood of having a money conversation with a person in the middle of the season. Right. So that's the new world, and we're trying to figure all that out.
Since it's opening day for baseball and we're recording this, I'll put a baseball analogy in here.
Are you serious?
Yeah, today. Well, I guess they started couple weeks ago in Japan, but today is the official opening day. There's not a lot of big payouts for a guy who pitches a scoreless sixth inning, right? Starters, late inning relievers, and that's to your point is like the guys that kind of get lost in the middle there that do the small things, which are I would assume the things that you've always preached that provide a lot of value for a team.
When teams are getting towards the trade deadline and of June, what is it, June 30th and then July 31st?
July. Yeah.
Like the one have to go through waivers, the other ones don't. It's two different dates. Everyone on TV, when you're watching a game, all they say is the ones that are making a playoff push, they need more arms. They ain't talking about starters and closers. They're talking about those middle inning guys. They need more arms.
Yeah.
And but Jay, again, old school, new school. Rate it however you want to rate it. Tom Seaver, Roger Clemens, Nolan Ryan. I'm not about the flamethrowers, the dudes that would drop and unload every pitch. Because now they say everyone's overthrowing. You don't think those guys overthrew back then too?
Yeah.
I mean, those guys
They just
threw as hard
lasted.
as they could.
Yeah.
Because they throw 100 now. It's no different than sprinters. 40 years ago, the 100-meter champion ran a 10 flat. Now they run a 9 flat. What? They get faster. It's more technology and everything. Where I'm going with this is those guys were trained to pitch into the 8th inning. So then you just needed a starter and a closer. Now these dudes are trained to pitch 75 pitches.
Yeah.
So if you're in the 5th inning, you're coming out. So how you bridging that gap? If you're training your best starter to pitch 75 pitches, how you get into your closer? Because your closer's useless in the 6th inning. And so those arms in today's world are so important there.
All right. I know, have been active trying to figure out how to put together this next team, and we're going to have a lot of time to talk about these things. As you've got visits going on right now, right?
I got somebody on campus today, and that's going to continue here for the next Wednesday. I leave for the Final Four. That's I think Wednesday at 8 p.m. if I'm not mistaken. It goes dead. So we'll have visits here every day through Wednesday.
What I guess we'll hear, because this is just the reality, players in the portal, I've already seen a couple of your guys make those announcements. You know, what's the message to them on their way out, and what's the message to the fans that have to, I mean, UMass is not different than any other team, but have to wrap their arms around kind of losing guys that they've become accustomed to?
Well, I like to use my journey so I can help prepare young people. The same things I tell my players are the things I tell my children. When you're the head coach at a university and your team wins 12 games, you know what you don't get to do? Go in your boss's office and say, hey, man, I know we won 12 games, but I need my budget for this to get better. I need you to pay this guy more. Ryan's going to look at me and say, hey, Frank, shut up. Get out of this office. If you don't like your job, leave. But right now, we need to do a better job. So that's the world I live in. That's the world we all live in. I'm trying to echo that to the players. Like, this is not the time to come in here and try to bargain or create conversations about what you're unhappy about. This moment should be about what we all have to do better to make sure this never happens again. That's the conversation I mean, it's different for every kid because everyone's different. But the basis of the conversation is basically around that. You know, I'm not into degrading people when things are bad or good. I don't degrade people. I might yell and stomp, and I might drop a word here and there that offends some people, which, by the way, I kind of find it cute when I'm in the heart of competition and we're fighting for our lives to win a game. I drop a certain word, everybody like freaks out. Now Bruce Pearl sits on a TV set and says what he said, and everyone thinks it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. I just think it's Bruce is a friend, so I'm at peace using his name.
As far as some coaches, I wouldn't put you at the top of foul language from what I've heard.
But I just find it funny how some coaches get judged on some things compared to others, and that's why I don't tie myself to that public sentiment. But we have to worry about us moving forward, and to move forward after a bad year. I don't get to demand anything from my bosses. The players don't get to demand anything from me. All I can do is tell them I got to do my job better, which I have. I messed this up, and this up. I'm not going to mess those things up moving forward. And now the players have to be reflective. They have to be self-accountable. Like, I told a couple of players, I said, the wins and losses, those are on me. I'm the one in charge of that. That has nothing to do with you. If you played a certain ways, because I tolerate it and I allow it. Now your stats, those are yours. Those aren't mine. When you look in the mirror, those are your stats, not my stats. So you don't want to have stats like that. You need to work on your game. You need to be more accepting of coaching. You need to buy into structure better so your stats get better. Those are the conversations that we're having, and it's a matter of finding most important part. I'm never going to beg somebody to play at UMass. I'm never asking. There's no one, me, you, or anybody else that's above the program. We all have to be excited about putting on that uniform. We all have to be excited about, wearing sweatshirts or a t-shirt every day to work that represents who we are. The day that we're not excited about this, when you don't walk in a room with your back, you walk in the room facing the room. So everyone always sees the name on your chest. And when you're in our business, the name on your chest is not yours. It's what you're a part of. And if we can't walk in the rooms and let people know that we're proud to wear that, then we all got to go somewhere else. And players, coaches, whoever. So that's the world that I try to create. And I want to make sure that we got guys that they don't walk in the room ashamed of wearing a UMass shirt. If they do, I can tell you I don't want them here and they don't need to be here.
What have you thought of the NCAA tournament so far?
The world we've created, the guys with the big schools that have the most money have collected the most good players, and the coaches, the Painters, the Izzos, I don't even know who's still Bruce at Auburn. The guys have been at established programs pre-COVID. Like all those guys were winning before COVID. They haven't started a program since COVID. Those guys have all kept their good players. They have good players in place. And why did they keep them? They didn't go buy players. They kept their good players. And they kept them because their school, their alums, whoever, came up with the resources so they can keep their good players. They've got a winning culture in place. So now those guys have won. And when one of those schools loses a good player, they don't lose their culture. But they have money so they can go get another good player. That's the world that we're in, and that's why the majority. And by the way, because you and I like talking about these kind of things, don't you think it's funny that the guys that basically are winning in college basketball right now are all the old crusty guys? Izzo, Tino.
I know you love that.
Seriously, because they're trying to run all the old crusty guys out.
Well, they've run some of them out.
They're trying to run them all out,
yeah,
as if what we do doesn't work, so we can hire the 27-year-old bushy-tailed guy with the parted hair. You like the way I just went there, right? And no hate to them, but don't crap on the old guys.
Yeah.
I'm all for young guys getting opportunities. I used to be that guy. But don't crap on the old guys. The old guys still know what they're doing, and I get excited when I see, Coach Patino and Izzo and and all those guys that are still winning and winning at a high level.
I know a lot of folks around here rooting for Arkansas. They got
Cal. Just think about it.
Yeah,
like what a great line. He said they put us in a coffin. They just didn't put the nails in it. I was like,
I didn't hear that.
I was like, that's awesome.
All right, so. I'm going to let you go because you've got recruiting and visits, but this is a turn the page now to the Mid-American Conference. Akron was the champion this past year. They were, a top 100 team. Both the A10 and the MAC just got one team into the NCAA tournament. Both lost in the first round. What's the moment, the challenge for you as we head into this MAC era?
No different than when I took the South Carolina job and left the Big 12. I kind of knew the SEC, but I wasn't familiar with the SEC. So I watched a lot of film on SEC teams over the course of the spring and the summer. Back then, I wasn't worried about transfers and recruiting at this time of year, so I was relaxing, and then so I can attack the offseason from a certain way. And the same thing when I got here. I had to spend time watching A10 teams in the offseason so I can become familiar, not so much with personnel, style of play. And what makes Akron good is that John Gross's team are going to play a certain way, regardless of who's on his team. So I can become more familiar with style of play of the different programs, to just have an understanding, because every league's different. Like, if you want to win in the NCAA tournament, there's some things you have to have. Okay. If you want to win your league, because it's two different animals, if you want to win your league, you got to know what you're competing against, so you can figure out how to recruit so you can win your league. Now, if your team has the pedigree to win your league, it's going to have the pedigree to win games in the NCAA tournament. Simple as that. Now, can you or can't you? It's all matchups. It's all, it's all based on it. There's a reason. Here I go on a tangent again on you, Jay. There's a reason why Muhammad Ali can beat George Foreman, but couldn't really beat Ken Norton. But George Foreman would destroy Ken Norton. There's a reason. It's all matchups, styles. And so I got to become familiar with the styles that they play to make sure that we don't build a team that's inferior to the upper half of that league.
Rest in peace, George Foreman, by the way.
Yeah, man.
Last week. Sad to hear. Okay. So Coach, what I'm going to do, I'll put it in your hands. Next time you want to talk, shoot me a message. We'll get this up and going as you get through the recruiting process to get back from the Final Four. I'd love to talk to you after that, to hear some stories of what the guys are saying, and then also dive a little bit further into what you're seeing out of the MAC and what, the strengths of that conference might be, and how you go about building this team. But I appreciate you taking the time.
You just went full baseball on me is what you just did.
Did I? No, I did not. No.
You just went full. Hey, Frank, you tell me.
You tell me, Frank. Well, hey,
I'll be at the ballpark.
Hey, I hope they made the mistake of giving me an office here finally. So next time we talk, I hope to have some colorful stuff back here.
How many years? How many years is this for you at UMass now,
That's
Jay?
like 6 years. Yeah.
And they finally gave you that room with a door.
Well, yeah, we had COVID, and it was just like, all right, working from wherever, and that's kind of how it went. But Coach, thanks so much for the straight talk, the honesty, and big thanks to the Mass Collective, who, as you talked about there earlier, has helped grow this the budget that we're working on and this podcast. We thank them for being a sponsor and all they've done. And if you are interested in listening to this and haven't got involved with UMass basketball, a small, contribution each month will make a world of difference, and we appreciate everybody's support. Coach, thanks so much.
I'll leave you with this. In today's day and age, if you have money, it doesn't guarantee you can win. If you don't have money, you got no chance to win. Right. So we got to make sure we keep building it. Thank you, Jay.
All right, he's head coach Frank Martin. My name's Jay Burnham. He has been just being Frank. Until next time from Amherst, so long.